Welcome back to the urban sports scene. As part of our HBCU Corner, we are now joined by two gentlemen who have decades worth of experience covering HBCU sports and athletics, with our first guest being known as, quote, the voice of Morgan State. He is Mr. Lamont, Germany. And last but not least, we also have this brother who I get a chance to talk sports with here and there on the Roundball Report. He's also part of HSRN, Heritage Sports Radio Network. He is the coach, Jimmy Fly Hellmann. Fellas, welcome to the urban sports scene.
Hey, what's up? Appreciate the invitation, man. Glad to be on board.
No doubt, no doubt.
Jimmy, how do you work with Ray? Like, how does that work? Like, you work with Ray. You work with Ray. Like, does he bother you? Does he annoy you? I mean, you.
Oh no,
living...
no. Educate, bring him along to my way of thinking.
Yeah, we're not going to talk Wizards or none of that stuff. This is going to be a fun discussion. I love the sweater, coach. You know, you dropped a couple pounds, looking good, man. Keep the sit-ups and all that good stuff up. So, in my brief introduction, I only provided just a little detail about your experience and your accomplishment, guys. So I would like to give you the opportunity to share with our listeners a bit more info just regarding your background and what you do. So I guess we'll get started with you, Mr. Germany.
Yeah, fellas. First of all, just want to extend my appreciation for you guys inviting me. My career now has been made. I'm on the urban sports scene. It took me a while to get to this level, but I worked hard. I kept at it, and I finally arrived. Mom, here I am on the urban sports scene. So right. It's all good. Proud graduate of Morgan State University. Came to Morgan from my hometown, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where I am right now, visiting family. When I got to Morgan, they didn't have any radio. They didn't have any broadcasting going on. So I volunteered myself to go ahead and step in and fill that gap. All the other institutions in the Baltimore area, predominantly white institutions, they had a place in the media landscape, and Morgan was an orphan. There wasn't anything going on. So I decided to pick up a microphone and start running my mouth. And I started that way back in 1983. And I haven't shut up since. I've been doing Morgan football, Morgan basketball. When the volleyball team's playing, I'm on the mic. When the softball team is striking people out, I'm on the mic. So if it's about screaming about Morgan State, in particular, HBCUs in general, I've been about that for basically the last 4 decades.
Amazing, Coach Fly. What do you want to share with the people?
Well, since I'm not an HBCU grad, I'm a graduate of the Geneva College Golden Tornadoes, Beaver Falls, PA, home of Joe, Willie, Namath. But anyways, we have that connection. LT and I, we're both Pittsburgh guys, grew up in that area. I guess I should say how I met him. I would, when I was coaching in the Maryland JUCO, he was the PA announcer for CCBC Dundalk. So that's how we kind of started talking. And I remember just, messing with him, saying, when I found out he was on the radio, saying, you ought to put me on the radio someday. I think I'd be pretty good at that. We banter back and forth, talk about the Steelers. And then when my coaching finished up, I got a text message from LG saying, meet me at the Hill Field House. I'm putting you on the air tonight. Out of the blue, no warm-ups, get in the seat, put the headset on, let's go. It just took off from there. I did the CIAA and the MEAC tournament back-to-back that year. It was like a basketball junkie addict because I just did game, like I must have did 30, 40 games in 2 weeks. And then he told me the seat's yours if you want it. So I've been there ever since.
Hey guys, let me just add a little something to Coach's resume, just a quick addendum.
Right.
Yes, as he said, he did not go to an HBCU, but he truly bleeds the colors. We were doing a tournament game, MEAC tournament game. It was Howard against Morgan. Came down to the final seconds of the game. Howard beat Morgan with a buzzer beater. I turned to this guy, he had tears. I mean, real tears.
Oh,
in his eyes. That day when Morgan lost to Howard at the buzzer in the tournament, a team that may have gone on and won the tournament that year. So it's in his heart. He bleeds it. He breathes it. He wears the colors not just for show. He wears the colors because he truly has become a Morgan Bear.
Mm.
I had a young lady on that squad, Bianca Jarrett, that graduated from transferred from West Virginia, that could just flat out ball and drop 30. And that's when the Lady Pirates of Hampton were dominating, won like 50, 60 games in a row. And I did have a tear in my eye. That hurt me. I wanted her to win so bad. But LG had 2 tears in his eyes because when I looked over at him, it was just a boom, boom, shocking miss shot, half second, throw it in, buzzer, game over, nothing to review. And, it was just a buildup of emotion. It was like, wow. Because coaching, you're emotional, you go home and you got this rerun in your head.
Don't you? Don't I know it?
Yeah, man, I can relate to some degree, but then again, I feel like just listening to you guys, again, thank you. And I appreciate just your level of commitment, your level of experience, and what you're teaching me, because I'm not as passionate as of yet about my alma mater. You know what I'm saying? I was sitting there thinking as you were talking, like, have I ever came close to crying about UMES losing the game?
Oh, no.
Probably not.
No, I haven't.
You know what I mean? Now when I played intramural hoops on campus, it was some times where I was mad, but
we was passionate.
I do want to see my school, of course, go to the NCAA tournament in terms of basketball, and you all have achieved that feat at Morgan State. So I'm hating a little bit, but as again, this is all about HBCUs, of course, man. I got love for y'all. So in a few words, we'll start with you, Lamont. Describe your experience over these years, just covering HBCU sports and what it means to you.
Well, it was a new experience for me coming from Pittsburgh, a place where there are no HBCUs anywhere in sight. My mother insisted that I go to an HBCU. So I just applied at a handful, and Morgan was the one that came in first, and relatively close, 4 or 5 hours away. And I did have a cousin who lives in Baltimore, still does. So I had some family down the way. But I stepped on foot. My first experience at Morgan was as a stranger. I didn't really know anybody. I'm probably a little shy and reserved by nature. And I think being on the radio helps me to hide my shyness, if you know what I mean. I kind of hide behind that veneer of the microphone. And when I saw that gap that I mentioned earlier, where there was no voice for Morgan State University, I just said, why not me? And so I jumped in the pond and kind of learned as I went along about what this HBCU thing is all about. And I learned day by day on campus and game by game, going to other campuses about, first of all, the depth, the richness of the history. There are so many stories that are untold. There's a lot of stories that are told, but there are so many that are untold about the HBCU athletic experience. And don't get me started across the board when it comes to business and science and industry and religion and entertainment on HBCU campuses. But if we just want to confine ourselves to the athletic realm, that can fill up a library. I'm so proud of the history at Morgan State University, one of the more accomplished HBCUs athletically. Unfortunately, fellas, most of Morgan's accomplishments came pre-1980, before I got there. The 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s are filled with Hall of Famers, records, championships on the track, on the football field. Baseball, Morgan had a great baseball team people don't know about in the 40s and 50s, a great women's basketball program back in the 70s. And then I came along and things didn't go as well for the Orange and the Blue starting in 1980. We had that oasis that you alluded to when Todd Bozeman came on the scene I guess about 10, 15 years ago now, on the basketball court. And for the first time, Morgan went to the Division I big dance. And there I was, man, rubbing shoulders with the big boys.
Yes, sir.
Not just once or twice, but I kind of got used to it. And I said, yeah, I could do this all the time. But if you've never experienced basketball on that level, that should be on everybody who's a hoop head. Got to be on your bucket list. It really is a great experience. And to see HBCUs not only go to those places, but to win. When Fang Mitchell went there and won, and a number 15 seed, they beat a number 2 seed when they pulled off the big upset over South Carolina back in the 90s. That was so exhilarating. For me as a Morgan guy, Morgan's across town from from Coppin. My first reaction was, okay, I'll admit it, a little jealousy. But just a little.
Hate a little bit.
Well, yeah, just a little bit. I'm human, but why not us? But then it was love. Then I thought to myself, that is us. Yeah, we're all part of this thing. We all share in that joy. And to see it happen again and again, Hampton did it, Norfolk State did it, able to pull off a big upset in the tournament. Yeah. And one of my biggest moments behind the microphone was when Morgan went to the University of Maryland campus. This is when Gary Williams was still the head coach at Maryland, and Morgan beat Maryland at
College Park.
There's never been a better feeling on the microphone for me in 40 years. I still remember that moment like it was yesterday when Morgan beat Maryland at Maryland. And boy, that was an unforgivable sin for Terp country. They wanted to hang Gary Williams upside down by his toenails, losing to Morgan State. So I could go on, but it's been a rich experience, a fulfilling experience, and the HBCU experience is something I wouldn't trade for anything in the world.
Coach Fly, you want to add anything just about what it means to you, man, be covering HBCUs as well? Sorry, man, go ahead.
No, I when I was coaching in the JUCO and stopped coaching, when I finished coaching up there, I guess it was about 2010, somewhere around in there, when Lamont brought me on the radio. I thought this was going to be the end for me, basketball wise. I would just sit on the couch, and I was already announcing on the couch at home for years. So actually, when I put the headset, it wasn't difficult for me. But I just like to add the level of talent and professionalism of Lamont. A lot of people might, not know who he is on a broader scale, nationally, but this man has talent. I've listened to a lot of broadcasters. This guy could easily be on ESPN, on NBA broadcast, doing anything, football or basketball wise. He kind of brought me along, taught me the radio business, how this thing works. And it was just a natural fit. I mean, I understood how, once I started doing games with him, he talks real fast. I talk a little bit slower, but I learned how to, he taught me how to get in and out, condense what I got to say. And because basketball is fast, and football, you got a minute, 2 minutes maybe between plays, you can talk. Basketball, you got to get in, get out, make your point, and move on. But him and I have a very good chemistry, I think, on the mic together. And so I appreciate him extending my career in the basketball world.
So Coach Jimmy, I coach basketball. I've been coaching like for 10 plus years. I see that you're a coach, and I've seen a lot of your stuff on Round Ball Report on YouTube and whatnot. And no, don't do that. Don't do that, Ray. And I dig your basketball mind. I can tell that you know your X's and O's like to a different level. So for me, viewing coaches and whatnot, coaching, obviously doing games at HBCU, who are some of the best coaches that you've seen as HBCU coaches?
Well, I watched two of them up close and personal, Coach Bo, and I came right after they won a couple MEAC titles. I've done 3 championship games with Lamont, where they unfortunately lost to A&T, Central, and then Norfolk State 2 years ago. But Coach Bozeman, definitely. And then Coach Brodus, I like a whole lot. I think he's going to, he's had success there, but I think he's going to get over the hump and get them back into March Madness. But Fang Mitchell was still there at College State, which I always respected him. And the women's coach who at Coppin, who was his assistant coach when he started in the JUCO in New Jersey, I think at Gloucester, before he came to Coppin, he became the head coach of the women. These guys have basketball minds. When you talk to them, watch them. Fang Mitchell hadn't lost anything when they got rid of him. He still was coaching. I'm watching these guys on the sidelines. You got to go down to North Carolina Central, Coach Moten, who consistent winner down there, and the guy from Norfolk State and Hampton before they left. I mean, there's a lot of good coaches in there. And my thing is always, as I will always say, some of these guys like Coach Moten down in Central, he could coach in the ACC, give him the same type of players, and he's successful, But some of these guys, unfortunately, won't, get the shot to the bigger level because for whatever reasons, these bigger conference won't promote a coach that's at a MEAC or SWAC school. That's just the way it is.
So Coach, when you're doing a game, like when you're doing a game and you're watching, having a basketball mind, having an elite basketball mind, to be honest with you, what are you looking for? Like, what are you trying to look at? What keys are you looking for?
Well, Lamont and I, we don't have the benefit of having producers and giving us all the data. We got to do that homework ahead of time. And Lamont, breaks everything down in sheets. So I do my own homework. But I'm looking at, the last 5 or 6 games. I might watch some tape, each team, what kind of defenses they're playing, their style. But for doing it for so long, I pretty much know the teams now in those conferences when they're playing other opponents. But I always look for styles. I look for how they score, how they defend, because you can kind of figure out how this game is going to go. And that's before the game, Law, I would say, Coach Jimmy Fly, break it down. What's key to stay in this game?
Let me just add one other element to Coach's preparation that he left out, because it isn't always just the X's and O's and the stats and the wins and the losses, but Coach does an extremely good job of getting to know the individual players on the team. He reaches out and touches the players personally. I see him before games teaching players how to shoot free throws. I mean, he's literally at the free throw line. Now, this is where you stand, and this is how you hold the ball, and this is your release point, and this is where you're aiming, and this is how you got to just shoot 85% from the free throw line. If you do what I'm telling you, I'm saying, Coach, they ain't paying you to do that. Come back over here and sit with me.
Look, Coach, you ain't teaching them to step back. You're not teaching them to step back or the Dirk one-legger. You ain't teaching them to
like 2 minutes. I got to get in and get out before somebody sees me and tells me to get out of the building.
But that's the other element that's important, is the personal element, because these are people, and we like to relay those personal stories when we broadcast as well.
Oh, obviously.
So obviously we've already kind of alluded to it with all the increased exposure and its growing attention on HBCU athletics, which includes, of course, your Morgan State Bears. They took part in NBA All-Star Weekend. I just want to get your feel. Where do you think HBCU sports are headed? And in your opinion, also, what's the future of the MEAC?
Well, I love all the attention that HBCU athletics and HBCUs more broadly have been getting. My only reservation is it a flavor of the month situation? Are we going to be, here today, embrace today, and then kick to the curb tomorrow? Because this is a long-term thing. This isn't something that is going to be able to be fully embraced in a week, a month, a year. So I want to see where all these different entities who have been embracing HBCUs, where are they 6 months from now? Where are they a year from now? Where are they 5 years from now? Are they still in it when the lights are out and there's no longer the same kind of focus? That's my only reservation about it. But Ray, to answer your question, NBA All-Star Weekend, I think that was a fantastic platform for Morgan and Howard. I think it was a great idea conceptually, what the NBA did. Just for those who may not be aware, Morgan and Howard were a part of the All-Star Weekend, and this year the All-Star game was in Cleveland, Ohio, played as it always is on that Sunday. But the day before, on Saturday, it was Morgan playing Howard. And I can't tell you what it meant for the players on Morgan and Howard's team to be playing a game where you sit and you look and there's LeBron watching you and Steph is watching you. And they're seeing their heroes, and now they're performing before them. It's if you're a singer and Stevie Wonder is watching. You're performing on a stage.
Yeah, watching. Don't do that.
Listen to me.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Watching
Don't do that.
He's watching what it did.
Yeah, I get you.
but it meant something to the
Absolutely.
to the Howards and the Morgans. And again, this is something I hope is still here a year from now, 5 years from now.
I just want to say real quick, that's what this is about. It's about people knowing the history. And I want to quickly show Coach Broder some love, because when he came on with us, he pointed out how when he was in school and he went to Bowie State, he said, you can go to FAMU, and there was as many NFL players on that campus that's on the campus of Alabama and Oklahoma. Because back then, it was the norm for players from HBCUs to go to make it to the pro level. And I don't think people know that. Kind of what you're saying is that, Wole, you started nodding immediately, because we know some people are just jumping on the bandwagon
trendy,
because it's a hot
trendy
topic.
Yeah.
Right. And that, like you kind of alluded to, can fade eventually because the news cycle changes all the time. So that's what we're doing here, to keep it going, to keep this movement alive, and also to teach people the history, because I always recommend that people go back and watch Black Magic, the ESPN documentary. I don't know if you saw that, but it was amazing, man, and just educational. So I'm not going to say too much more than that. But Wole, I don't know if you want to go to the next question or not.
No, I want to ask. I kind of want to piggyback on what you were talking about. I was going to ask the question is like, so how can we make this a long-term thing? Like Ray and I, our idea is like to kind of like be a part of the cog, and obviously have segments like this. But for you, in your opinion, how can we make this a long-term thing rather than this fear of being a trendy thing?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that will be important to keep this train moving down the track and ensure that this isn't something that a year from now we're talking about from a historical perspective rather than a here and now perspective. When opportunities present themselves, such as it did with Morgan and Howard this past weekend, it's about putting your best foot forward. And I think that's what happened with Morgan and Howard. They put a great product. It was a great game. It showed off the individual skill set of the players on the two teams, but also showed off HBCU flavor, because it's a whole different vibe, that HBCU vibe. You know it, UMES. It's different. Morgan's about 5 minutes from Loyola, and about maybe 10 minutes from Towson. If you step on Towson's campus on a game day or Loyola's campus on a game day in Morgan's, it's no question which one is the HBCU. The moment you set your foot in the gym or in the football stadium. And that vibe being shared on that level, in this case, the HBCU All-Star Weekend NBA level, is something that Morgan and Howard did. And I think that will help to make sure that next year they do it again, and we start to build on it. And then the second component is we can't be afraid to speak up. It's not like, and I think Chris Paul put it the best way. It's not like the NBA is doing HBCUs a favor. He said, you deserve to be here. You deserve to be on this platform. The talent you bring, the history you bring, the intensity you bring, the entertainment value you bring, you should be here. You belong here. So it's not like you're indebted to us. No, we're indebted to you. And so we can't be ashamed to step up, speak up, to make sure that this thing continues and doesn't become flavor of the month.
Well, I'd like to add one thing to what Lamont says, because I agree with everything he said there. Just let me throw in the atmosphere, because I love the Morgan State band. He knows. When there's nobody in the gym, I'm like, we need to pump in band music to these games. It just brings another dimension to the atmosphere on campus in the Hill Field House. But this is something I talked with Lamont several years ago, and we've had these conversations. To me, there's another component. And I asked him about this, whether these conversations taking place, and these got to be taking place at the top level with the presidents of the college and the people running these institutions. The MEAC is down to 8 teams. When I joined Lamont, they were at 13 teams. So they've lost 5 schools. Florida and Bethune-Cookman went back to SWAC. Savannah State went to Division II. Hampton, A&T, left the building for bigger conferences. But they only have 6 football teams left. 8 schools, UMAS and Coppin State, don't play football.
Yeah.
They are at a crossroads to me that nobody is mentioning, that if one more school with a football team drops out, they're going to be in big trouble. My thing was that I talked to Lamont years ago was that why is there not a conversation here about WAC and the MEAC joining forces? Just look at the Big Ten. They got, 12, 14 teams. ACC got like 16 teams. But now you can create a TV market, even though it's going to be South and Northeast. But the power of having all those schools in one conference, all right, and a Grambling coming up to play, Howard or Morgan State, Southern, vice versa. If you create that, you can create a TV package that will give them the dollars, because to sustain this and grow it even bigger, you need money to do that. To me, that's a no-brainer. I don't know, like Lamont would know more whether those discussions have been had or not. But to me, you have to have a vision if you're at these schools. Because say Norfolk State bolts and leaves the MEAC. Now, you're not going to have any CIAA teams going to step in, go up to Division I. Costs too much money, and you already have a plan in place to do that. So now you'd have to bring in outside teams that are not HBCU. And so to me, that should be priority number one. And then the second thing I would say, the Chris Pauls of the world and LeBron James and these guys that are stepping up and giving exposure to this. I know Stephon Curry gave $1 million, I believe, to Howard. To
$2 million to the golf program. Yeah.
Golf program, yeah.
But these guys are multi-millionaires. All right. It would be nothing for them to each say, hey, we'll get like 30 of us. We're going to give $1 million each to schools to help fund, their athletic programs. But again, these are things, you got to have a vision for this. You got to get these people in the room and say, we appreciate everything you're doing, but we need cash is king. So I'd like to hear what Lamont thinks of my thoughts.
I'm on board with everything you said, Coach. I want that day to come where I see an HBCU do with St. Peter's, the mid-major school in Jersey City. New Jersey did this year, made a deep run in the tournament.
Yes, sir.
And I think there's absolutely no reason why that can't be an HBCU. I'm going further than that, not just an HBCU, but multiple HBCU.
I love
in
it.
the top 20, in the top 25, in the Sweet 16. I think that is a vision that doesn't have to remain just a pipe dream, but it's going to take what Coach talked about. You have to have those foundational things, and they begin with support and resources. in order to first build it and then sustain it. And as it regards the MEAC, yeah, they're on the precipice. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. They have to find membership or they got to find a partner. And no better partner than the SWAC. And if the SWAC and the MEAC aren't having those conversations, they should. And in addition to that, the MEAC has to have their doors open to new members coming on board. It might just be you and me, man, the way it's looking, Morgan and UMES. That might be it. That might be the MEAC, the way it's going. We may play each other 10 times
All
a year
right,
or something.
we gonna be there in person then. The four
Well,
of us gonna be
I
there.
do have a follow-up question because I mean that's a good point that Coach Jimmy made. But does football hurt that though? Because the SWAC has such a good football conference in terms of notoriety compared to the MEAC. It's wild, but because South Carolina State in the MEAC, when it has the Celebration Bowl, I think the MEAC has won the Celebration Bowl like about five years in a row or something like that. But in terms of like the image of the SWAC, like their football programs are more popular. So does that hinder it?
Yeah, you're right. The SWAC has done a better job at marketing.
Yes,
The
definitely.
MEAC has done a better job at playing football.
Yes.
When they actually play the SWAC, they
Yes,
beat them.
they beat the SWAC.
Yeah, time and time again. Not just this year with South Carolina State and Jackson State, but the MEAC has owned the celebration.
Yes, they owned it. Yeah,
ever since it was birthed. And the same with they have a game at the beginning of the year, the MEAC SWAC challenge. It kicked off the season, and the MEAC has had its way in that as well. But you're right. The MEAC has to pick up its marketing mojo. If you're winning on the field, why should you be the lesser conference when it comes to visibility if you're beating that conference year in and year out? And that says that the SWAC has embraced the importance of marketing in a way that the MEAC needs to learn and step up their game.
Oh, you just gave me new idea too.
Coach Jimmy, yeah.
No, I just want to say, because when you go, like when I went to the CIAA for my first time years ago, it was down in Charlotte. Now, I'd never been to the CIAA. I know who Bowie State is and a couple of the schools, but I didn't know the history of it. And then, doing my research and find out this is the most profitable tournament outside the ACC.
It is.
Including every Division I, tournament that there is, but it goes back to, that was like a fraternity. That was like a family reunion when you went down there, because you have generational people. You got grandfathers and their children went, and now their grandchildren are attending these universities. That's why I say if the SWAC and the MEAC join forces, it should be a marketing bonanza for Bank America or whoever, because you have generations of family units that have gone to these institutions, and now these kids that are going to graduate as engineers and doctors, whatever they're going to be in life, they're going to buy houses, they're going to buy cars, they're going to be consumers, which is what drives marketing. So these people would have access, to that conference. If you join forces, that's got to be, a $1 billion proposition for, companies that are selling stuff. So to me, you get a TV deal and blow this up, then you're creating new rivalries with these schools that, play each other occasionally, but now will, compete against each other on a regular basis. And then I just add, when you get guys like Deion Sanders coming in as a head coach and this kind of thing, let's not forget the NIL, because NIL is a big thing now, because a kid can go to an HBCU that's got NIL money coming in. He doesn't have to try to jump to the NBA that quick if he's not ready, because he's already getting paid. So I think there's ways, recruiting wise and that type of thing, that you can get top tier talent. But to me, what I want to see is a marriage of the SWAC and the MEAC, and then get money behind it, because I think that in a 10-year time, that thing will go to where you're all talking about. You want to see it go.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, you gave me my next idea for a show in the future. I had a MEAC commissioner on here with me, and with us, I should say, because these are questions I would love to ask. But for the sake of time, I want to condense my last two questions because it's been some big names, especially Lamont. I know you've seen it. Vashante Shanko, I'm sure you covered him. Butch Beard, some big names that have come through Morgan State. What are some players and/or coaches that just stand out when you think of all your years of covering, Morgan State athletics? What guys can you highlight that just automatically come to your mind that still resonate with you to this day?
I probably would spotlight a couple of individuals who don't get spotlight, if I could. I'm going to step
Sweet.
off the football field. I'm going to take it outside of the basketball arena. I'm going to talk about a softball player, if that's okay.
That's great.
We do have HBCU softball. As a matter of fact, softball season as we speak. And that's a sport that's now emerging a little bit more nationally, getting a little bit more attention bit by bit. Morgan had a softball player about 15 years ago from California, Sacramento, California, named Tanisha Kemp. And if you know anything about softball, outside of the pitcher, the shortstop gets all the action on the field. And if you don't have a good shortstop, you're not going to have a good team. This young lady could cover anything that was hit in the infield, did not get through her, had a rocket right arm. And then when she picked up the wood, the balls would be flying all over Morgan State's campus. There's still broken windows on campus that this young lady broke with home runs she was hitting. And I bring her up because a lot of times we just kind of default to basketball and football, and no hate. I scream and holler about football and basketball myself over the last 4 decades. But HBCUs have produced athletes in other sports that could play with people on any level. And the young lady that I'm talking about could play the game on the Olympic level, on the international level, and could have played at any prominent, predominantly white institution, but chose to come to Morgan State University, help elevate the softball program that just won its first championship just this past season. She long since graduated, but she helped steady the ship, give Morgan a little bit of attention. And she's one of the better just athletes in any sport that I've ever seen since I've been at Morgan State University, is Tanisha Kemp, who was a softball athlete. And I mentioned her because, again, that's a sport that doesn't get a lot of attention, and she's an individual that doesn't get a lot of attention.
Wole, I know you're going to look her up, right?
Oh, you know I am. That's all. You know I am. You know, we're kind of working on it already. You already know.
Coach Fly, anybody stand out for you over the years, man? Coaches, players, as he just mentioned, don't have to be anybody that's well known.
Well, no, the two guys most recent, I'll say basketball wise, because that's more my lane. Troy Baxter, who just graduated the previous year, got caught on. I think he's with Chicago in the G League. But I remember the first time, Lamont, I'll tell you, the first time I saw him, in a practice or in a game, and he came from UNLV via Florida Gulf Coast, 6'9", dude. He had NBA hops. I mean, when I say I'm talking the top level. This dude, I don't know if they measured him. He had to have at least a 36, if not a 40-inch vertical. That I'm not exaggerating. Lamont will tell you. This guy, his dunks were so ferocious. The first time I seen him dunk, I said to Lamont, I said, this guy could win an NBA dunk contest. I didn't play in the NBA. I just said, if he was in a dunk contest, he could win. Well, he won the college dunk contest in the Final Four his senior year for Morgan State. But he did catch on with the G League. He needed to work on his defense, and his three-point shooting got better. But just pure athleticism, you don't see guys like that coming through the MEAC. And the other guy was Taiwan Kenley, LG.
Capital City Go-Go.
I mean, yeah, he made it with the Go-Go's. I think he went to the Lakers G League team this past year. I don't know if he's stuck. But he was just a bucket. I mean, he was getting double teamed every game. But this guy just had capacity to split double teams and just wreak havoc on teams.
PG County.
And 30 points. You could just punch it in. Yeah, I know you a little PG County guy.
He went to Roosevelt. I just
Roosevelt.
in there, man.
Yeah, but
school.
He could score the basketball with the best of them. And to get to the next level, to get to the NBA level, at this point in time, you're not getting there just playing defense. You better be able to score.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Guys, listen, we, of course, could go on all day. I would love to hear more of you guys' stories and just get more of your wisdom. But of course, for the sake of time, like I said, we're going to get ready to wrap up. Is there anything you all want to add? And, like I mentioned, man, we got to do this again. But before I let you go, anything else you want to add? I don't see either one of you guys on social media, so I don't think I need to ask, do we need to follow you? Nothing like that. But still, just share with our listeners, just any more info about yourselves or, what you got going on that you would like for folks to know.
Well, actually, I am on Twitter. I think I've sent like 2 tweets in my life. I'm working on the third now. So if anybody wants me to read my 2 tweets, it's Radio G, G-E-E is my handle on Twitter. I've been told I need to pick up my game and maybe hang around with you fellas.
Yes, you can. You hang with us anytime. We'll show you about the tweet game. We'll show you the tweet game.
Yeah, I need
Ray don't got the tweet game. You can hang with me.
Okay.
I'm not. Yeah. He'll help you. I'm gonna look you up now, though.
I need some help though, fellas, in that area. And Ray, you'll see that when you look me up that I need some assistance. So if you guys can help me with that, I'd appreciate it.
Definitely.
But I'd encourage you guys to keep doing what you're doing. This is really crucial to have folks who love HBCUs embrace HBCUs. It's when we show appreciation for each other, that helps to elevate everybody in the HBCU landscape. And I'll end where I began. If there's anything else moving forward that I can do, any way that I can contribute to what you guys are doing, just reach out and touch, and Lamont, Germany will be there. Thank you guys for having me on. There I go.
Nice picture, man.
Yeah, that's me. How many tweets do I have, man, by the way? Does it say?
Let's see. I'm not that savvy. It
okay.
should tell you though.
It should tell you.
You have not tweeted since 2021 though, so that'll tell you something.
So that's a year.
That's not as bad as I thought it would be. I thought it'd be like 2017.
Oh, you have 160 total tweets, so it's a little more than 3.
Okay.
That's not bad.
All right.
That's not bad.
All right, but I still need your help, man. I still need your help.
I'm here for you.
I got 0 tweets.
Maybe I can work with you too.
No. We don't want to do it. Well, later, we don't want to do that one. We're not gonna go there. We're trying to wrap up, man.
Go to Round Ball Report, Urban, HSRN. The people listening, if they love HBCUs, you got to turn in. You got to download the HSRN app. You can listen to games across the country, football, basketball. Put it on your thing to do list.
All right, cool. I downloaded. I used to keep it during basketball season so I can listen to you, and then for space reasons, I deleted it. And I got bring it back. But I do love HSRN. Though, of course, you're not the only person I know that's been down with HSRN, so that's sweet. But guys, again, thank you, Real Talk, for joining us. I appreciate the knowledge. Like I said, I'm sure you got more to offer, and we'll do this again. But thanks again.
Pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thank you,
partner.
All right, guys. Thanks.